When riveting dissimilar metals together, what precautions must be taken to prevent an electrolytic action? Place a protective separator between areas of potential electrical difference. One precaution to be observed when riveting together dissimilar metals is to place a non-conductive separator between the two surfaces. This separator prevents the migration of electrons between the areas of electrode potential difference. Metal fasteners used with carbon, graphite composite structures must be constructed of material such as titanium or corrosion-resistant steel. One of the problems with carbon graphite as a structural material is the fact that aluminum mallows in contact with it will corrode. For this reason, fasteners used with carbon graphite must be made of a corrosion-resistant material such as titanium or corrosion-resistant steel. The classification for high tensile strength fiberglass used in aircraft structures is S-glass. There are two types of glass fibers used in aircraft composite structure, E-glass and S-glass. E or electrical glass has a high dielectric strength and is designed primarily for electrical insulation. S or structural glass has a high tensile strength and is used for structural applications. What is the most common method of cementing transparent plastics? Soak method. The most common method of cementing transparent plastic material is the soak method. The edges of the pieces of plastic material to be joined are soaked in a solvent until they are softened and a cushion is formed. The two softened edges are pressed together and allowed to remain under pressure until the softened areas diffuse and form a single piece of material. What should be the included angle of a twist drill for soft metals? 90 degrees. For drilling soft metals, an included angle of about 90 degrees 45 on either side of center is suitable. For normal metals, an angle of 118 degrees 59 on either side of center is considered the standard bit angle. Which procedure is correct when using a reamer to finish a drill hole to the correct size? Turn the reamer only in the cutting direction. When using a reamer to enlarge a hole, always turn the reamer in the direction of cutting. If the direction of reamer motion is reversed, the reamer will be seriously dulled. Which rivet is used for riveting magnesium alloy structures? 50-56 aluminum. To prevent corrosion in a magnesium structure, 50-56 aluminum alloy rivets should be used. Magnesium is the chief alloying agent in 50-56 aluminum alloy. Unless otherwise specified, the radius of a bend is the inside radius of the metal being formed. The bend radius of a piece of sheet metal is the radius of the inside of the bend. Fiberglass laminate damage that extends completely through one facing and into the core requires the replacement of the damaged core and facing. According to a C43.13-1B, fiberglass damage that extends completely through one facing and into the core requires the replacement of the damaged core and facing. What is the minimum spacing for a single row of aircraft rivets? 3 times the diameter of the rivet shank. Rivets in a single row should be spaced no closer than 3 times the diameter of the rivet shank 3D. The primary alloying 2024-D3 is indicated by the number 2. The primary alloying agent in 2024-D3 aluminum alloy is copper, which is identified by the first digit 2. First digit is the principal alloying element. The second digit measure of the limits of impurities. Third and fourth digits is the amount of the alloying element in the metal. MS 2042 680-6-5 indicates a countersunk rivet which has an overall length of 5/16 inch. And MS 2042 680-6-5 rivet is a countersunk head rivet made of 21/17 aluminum alloy. It has a diameter of 6/32 inch, 3/16 inch, and an overall length including the head of 5/16 inch. Which of the following, when added to wet resins, provides strength for the repair of damaged fastener holes in composite panels? Flocks and chopped fibers. Chopped fibers may be any type of fiber cut to a length of 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Flocks is the fuzzy fibers taken from the strands of fabric. Microballoons are tiny spheres of glass or phenolic resin. When repairing damaged fastener holes in composite panels, chopped fibers or flocks can be added to the wet resin to strengthen the repair. Microballoons do not add any strength. When repairing a small hole on a metal stress skin, the major consideration in the design of the patch should be the shear strength of the riveted joint. When repairing a small hole in a metal stress skin, the rivets should take all the stress from the skin and carry it into the patch. On the opposite side of the damage, this stress is carried back into the skin. The shear strength of the riveted joints should be slightly less than the bearing strength of the skin. If a failure should occur, it will be a shear failure of the rivets, rather than a bearing failure of the skin. Which rivet may be used as received without further treatment? 21/17-D3. A 21/17 rivet is known as an AD rivet. It may be driven as received without further heat treatment. If a streamline cover plate is to be hand-formed using a form block, a piece of dead soft aluminum should first be placed over the hollow portion of the mold and securely fastened in place. The bumping operation should be started by tapping the aluminum lightly around the edges and gradually working down into the center. When using the bumping operation to form a compound curve in a piece of soft aluminum, use light blows of the mallet to work the material down gradually from the edges. Remember that the object of the bumping process is to work the material into shape by stretching it, rather than by forcing it into the form with heavy blows. Always start bumping near the edge of the form. Never start in the center. Which part of the 20/17-T36 aluminum alloy designation indicates the primary alloying agent used in its manufacture? 2. The primary alloying agent in 20/17-T36 aluminum alloy is copper, which is identified by the digit 2 at the beginning. The sight line on a sheet metal flat layout to be bent in a cornice or box break is measure and marked 1 radius from the bend tangent line that is placed under the break. When making a bend in a piece of sheet metal in a cornice or box break, draw a sight line inside the bend allowance that is 1 bend radius from the bend tangent line that is placed under the break. Sight down vertically over the edge of the radius bar and place this sight line directly in line with the edge of the radius bar. In this position, the bend tangent line is at the beginning of the radius. Which is correct concerning the use of a file? Apply pressure on the forward stroke only, except when filing very soft metals such as lead or aluminum. To prevent undue wear on the file, when filing any metal other than lead or soft aluminum, apply pressure only during the forward stroke. Relieve the pressure during the return stroke. A potted compound repair on honeycomb can usually be made on damages less than 1 inch in diameter. A potted compound repaired to a honeycomb structure can be used if the damage is less than 1 inch in diameter. The identifying marks on the heads of aluminum alloy rivets indicate the specific alloy used in the manufacture of the rivets. The identifying mark on the head of an aluminum alloy rivet indicates the specific alloy used in the manufacture of the rivet. The purpose of a joggle is to allow clearance for a sheet or an extrusion. A joggle is an offset bend in the end of a sheet or an extrusion made to allow clearance for another sheet or extrusion. Joggles allow both the main portion of the material and the portion of the material over the sheet or the extrusion to lie flat. Which of the following is one advantage of high lock fasteners? Inability to be over-torqued. The advantages of a high lock 2-piece fastener include its light weight, high fatigue resistance, high strength, and its inability to be over-torqued. Fiberglass laminate damage not exceeding the first layer or ply can be repaired by filling with a putty consisting of a compatible resin and clean, short glass fibers. Fiberglass damage that does not exceed the first layer or ply can be repaired by filling it with a putty made of a compatible resin and clean, short glass fibers. The mixture is used to fill in the damage. After it has cured, it is sanded smooth. Which of the following are generally characteristic of aramid fiber Kevlar composites? High tensile strength and flexibility. Kevlar is an aramid fiber that is noted for its flexibility and high tensile strength. It does not conduct electricity and does not cause aluminum to corrode when it is held in contact with it. The most important factors needed to make a flat pattern layout are radius, thickness, and degree of bend. When making a flat pattern layout of a piece of formed sheet metal, there are 4 things we must consider. 1. The radius of the bend. 2. The thickness of the material being bent. 3. The number of degrees in the bend. And 4. The lengths of all the flat portions of the part the mold line dimension, minus the setback. When straightening members made of 20, 24-T4, you should straighten cold, then reinforce. If a structural member made of 20, 24-T4, aluminum alloy is bent, it should be straightened cold and then reinforced. Rivet gauge or transverse pitch is the distance between the centers of rivets in adjacent rows. Rivet gauge or transverse pitches the distance between the centers of rivets in adjacent rows. The part of a replacement honeycomb core that must line up with the adjacent original is the ribbon direction. The ribbon direction of a honeycomb core is the direction of the strips of material that were used to form the honeycomb cells. Honeycomb core material has strength parallel to the ribbon direction, but not perpendicular to the ribbon. When replacing honeycomb core material, the ribbon direction of the insert must be the same as the ribbon direction of the original core. Threaded rivets, riv nuts, are commonly used to attach parts or components with screws to sheet metal. Riv nuts are a special type of blind rivet whose shank has internal threads. When the riv nut is set up in a piece of thin sheet metal, the threaded shank acts as a nut to receive a machine screw. Riv nuts were originally designed to attach dicer boots to thin sheet metal, wing and empennage leading edges. A DD rivet is heat-treated before use to soften to facilitate riveting. DD, or 2024-T, rivets are heat-treated before they are driven to soften them, so they will not split when they are driven. Which statement is true regarding a cantilever wing? No external bracing is needed. A cantilever wing does not require any external bracing or struts. All the strength is within the wing itself. The dimensions of an MS 20-43-0AD-4-8 rivet are 1/8 inch in diameter and 1/2 inch long. The first dash number in the rivet identification gives the rivet diameter in 1/32 inch increments. The second dash number gives the rivet length in 1/16 inch increments. An MS 20-43-0AD-4-8 rivet is for 32 inch, 1/8 inch in diameter and 8/16 inch, 1/2 inch long. The strength and stiffness of a properly constructed composite buildup depends primarily on the orientation of the plies to the load direction. The strength and stiffness of a properly constructed composite buildup depends primarily on the orientation of the plies to the load direction. What is the purpose of refrigerating 2017 and 2020 for aluminum alloy rivets after heat treatment? To retard age hardening. 2017 and 2020 for aluminum alloy rivets must be heat treated before they are driven. Immediately after they are quenched, they should be stored in a sub-freezing refrigerator. Storing the rivets at the cold temperature retards their aging process and allows time to elapse between their heat treatment and their being driven. Rivet pitch is the distance between the centers of adjacent rivets in the same row. Rivet pitch is the distance between the centers of adjacent rivets in the same row. A rivet set used to drive MS 2047-0 rivets should have a slightly greater radius than the rivet head. The rivet set used to drive AN 470 or MS 2047-0 universal head rivets should have a radius slightly larger than the radius of the rivet head. This larger radius allows the hammering action of the rivet gun to be directly on the crown of the rivet. The sharpest bend that can be placed in a piece of metal without critically weakening the part is called the minimum radius of bend. The minimum radius of bend, or as it is more commonly called, the minimum bend radius, is the sharpest bend that can be made in a piece of metal without critically weakening the part, which is an identifying characteristic of acrylic plastics. Zinc chloride will have no effect. A quick and easy way to distinguish between cellulose acetate plastic and acrylic plastic is to put a drop of zinc chloride on them. Zinc chloride has no effect on acrylic plastic, but it causes cellulose acetate plastic to turn milky. Aircraft structural units, such as spars, engine supports, etc., which have been built up from sheet metal, are normally repairable using approved methods. Aircraft structural units, which are built up from sheet metal, are normally repairable using procedures recommended by the manufacturer of the airframe and approved by the FAA. When comparing the machining techniques for stainless steel sheet material to those for aluminum alloy sheet, it is normally considered good practice to drill the stainless steel at a lower speed with more pressure applied to the drill. When drilling stainless steel, you should use a drill with a larger included angle. Use a lower speed and more pressure than you would use for aluminum alloy. The general rule for finding the proper rivet diameter is 3 times the thickness of the thickest sheet. A rule of thumb for determining the rivet diameter to be used for repairing aircraft sheet metal is to use a rivet whose diameter is approximately 3 times the thickness of the thickest sheet being joined. The classification for fiberglass reinforcement material that has high resistivity and is the most common is E-glass. There are 2 types of glass fibers used in aircraft composite structure: E-glass and S-glass. E, or electrical glass, has a high resistivity and is designed primarily for electrical insulation. Its low cost makes it the more widely used type of glass where high strength is not required. S, or structural glass, has a high tensile strength and is used for critical structural applications. The length of time that a catalyzed resin will remain in a workable state is called the pot life. The length of time a catalyzed resin will remain in a workable state is called its pot life. When balsa wood is used to replace a damaged honeycomb core, the plug should be cut so that the grain is perpendicular to the skin. A plug of balsa wood can be used to replace a section of damaged honeycomb core. When using balsa for repair, cut the plug so that its grain is perpendicular to the skin. What precaution, if any, should be taken to prevent corrosion inside a repaired metal honeycomb structure? Prime the repair with a corrosion inhibitor and seal from the atmosphere. When a repair to a metal honeycomb structure is made, the repair should be primed with a corrosion inhibiting primer and should be sealed so no moisture or air can get to the inside of the repair. When bending metal, the material on the outside of the curve stretches while the material on the inside of the curve compresses. That part of the material which is not affected by either stress is the neutral line. The material on the outside of a curve stretches, while the material on the inside of the curve compresses. There is a location near the middle of the metal thickness that neither shrinks nor stretches. This is called the neutral line, or the neutral axis, of the material. The monocoque fuselage relies largely on the strength of skin or covering. The greatest amount of strength in a monocoque fuselage is derived from the skin or covering. If a new safety belt is to be installed in an aircraft, the belt must conform to the strength requirements in which document. Technical Standard Orders C-22. Safety belts approved for installation in aircraft may be identified by the marking TSOC-22 on the belt or by the military designation number for the belt. Military belts are approved for installation because their requirements meet or exceed those of Technical Standard Orders C-22. What type of bit should be used to drill holes in plexiglass? A specially modified twist drill. When holes are to be drilled completely through plexiglass, the standard twist drill should be modified to a 60-degree tip angle, the cutting edge ground to a 0 rake angle, and the back lip clearance angle increased from 12 to 15 degrees. Fiberglass damage that extends completely through a laminated sandwich structure may be repaired. According to AC 4313-1B, fiberglass damage that goes completely through a laminate sandwich structure may be repaired by using either a step joint or a scarf joint repair. Both types of repair are described in AC 4313-1B. Which fiber to resin % ratio for advanced composite wet layups is generally considered the best for strength? 60-40. It is the fibers that carry the strength in a composite structure, and a 60-40 fiber to resin ratio provides the best strength. The flat layout or blank length of a piece of metal from which a simple L-shaped bracket 3 inches by 1 inch is to be bent depends upon the radius of the desired bend. The bracket which will require the greatest amount of material is one which has a bend radius of 1/8 inch. The larger the bend radius in this L-shaped bracket, the less material is needed. If we assume a metal thickness 0.063 inch, the bracket having a 1/8 inch bend radius will need 3.865 inches of material. The bracket having a 1/2 inch radius will need only 3.704 inches of material. The bracket having a 1/4 inch radius will need 3.811 inches of material. Proper prepreg composite lay-up curing is generally accomplished by applying external heat and pressure. Pre-impregnated materials, or prepregs, are fabrics that are uniformly impregnated with the matrix resins. They are rolled up and stored in a refrigerator to prevent their curing until they are to be used. One side of the material is covered with a plastic backing to prevent its sticking together while it is stored. To make a prepreg composite layup, cut the plies to size, remove the plastic backing, lay the plies up observing the correct ply orientation, and apply pressure and external heat. Which statement is true regarding the inspection of a stressed skin metal wing assembly known to have been critically loaded? If genuine rivet tipping has occurred, groups of consecutive rivet heads will be tipped in the same direction. If the structure has actually been damaged, this would be indicated by groups of consecutive rivet heads being tipped in same direction caused by a major deflection of the skin under load. Cabin upholstery materials installed in current standard category. Airplanes must be at least flame resistant. 14. CFR 23.23.25 requires that upholstery materials used for each compartment to be used by the crew or passengers must be at least flame resistant. A factor which determines the minimum space between rivets is the diameter of the rivets being used. Rivet spacing is based on the diameter of the rivet shank. It is expressed in terms of rivet diameters. Which parts of a semi-monocoque fuselage prevent tension and compression from bending the fuselage? Longerons and stringers. In a semi-monocoque fuselage, the primary bending loads are taken by the longerons, which usually extend across several points of support. The longerons are supplemented by other longitudinal members called stringers. A main difference between lockbolt, huckbolt tension, and shear fasteners, other than their application, is in the number of locking collar grooves. A lockbolt has locking grooves in its pin into which the collar is swaged. A shear lockbolt has 2 locking grooves, and the tension lockbolt has 5 grooves. What reference tool is used to determine how the fiber is to be oriented for a particular ply of fabric? Warp clock or compass. A warp clock or warp compass is a template with 8 arms 45 degree apart that allows you to orient the warp threads in the various plies of a laid-up repair in the direction specified by the Aircraft Structural Repair Manual. What is the purpose of a gusset or gusset plate used in the construction and repair of aircraft structures? To join and reinforce intersecting structural members. Gussets or gusset plates are used in an aircraft structure to join and reinforce intersecting structural members. Gussets are used to carry stresses from one member into another at the point the members join each other. What should be the included angle of a twist drill for hard metal? 118 degrees. For most drilling, including that for hard metal, the cutting angle of a twist drill is ground to an included angle of 118 degrees, 59 degrees on either side of the center. Repairs or splices involving stringers on the lower surface of stress skin metal wings are usually permitted but are normally more critical in reference to strength and tension than similar repairs to the upper surface. Repairs or splices to the stringers on the lower surface of a stress skin metal wing are permitted, but since the lower surface of the wing is under a tensile load in flight, these repairs are more critical with regard to tensile strength than repairs to the upper surface. When drilling stainless steel, the drill used should have an included angle of 140 degrees and turn at a low speed. The drill used for drilling stainless steel should have a much flatter angle than a drill used for soft material. An included angle of approximately 140 degrees is good for stainless steel. When drilling stainless steel, the drill should turn at a slow speed. On a semi-monocoque fuselage, the skin is reinforced by longitudinal structural members called longerons and stringers. The longitudinal structural members of a semi-monocoque fuselage are called longerons and stringers. The aluminum alloys used in aircraft construction are usually hardened by which method? Heat treatment. Alloys used in aircraft sheet metal construction are hardened by heat treatment. Shallow scratches in sheet metal may be repaired by burnishing. Shallow scratches in sheet metal may be repaired by burnishing. Burnishing is a process in which a smooth tool is used to force the raised material back into the scratch. Which of the following drill bit types work best when drilling an aramid fiber? Kevlar composite laminate. Carbide W-point. A carbide W-point bit, better known as a brad point bit, is used to drill holes in aramid fiber Kevlar composite laminate to keep the hole free of the fuzzy fibers that other drilling methods leave behind in the hole.